All right, so I'm recording this for our Oily Friends YouTube channel. And by the way, on that, I want to keep making sure that everybody knows we have videos that are always going to be uploaded on there, because I know that a lot of people are leaving social media or just taking a break or spending more time on other things, which I totally admire. So I want to make sure you guys know that you have a consistent place for education and resources and information and things like that over on our Oily Friends YouTube channel. So if you have new members, make sure you share that information with them too, so they know where to find that information and education. We actually have been getting some messages from people that are not aware of the resources we have, because there's just kind of the connection kind of falls apart the farther they get from us. And so I just want to make sure that everybody knows what we have available to them. So tonight we're going to just talk really basic about supplements, because a lot of people on my journey I found are like, why do I even need to take supplements? Oh, I eat really healthy, I don't need supplements, and things like that. So my goal tonight is just to show you guys, you know, what the need is for supplements, and then how to really prioritize what's most important when you're starting out. Because when we find out that there really is a lot of value and benefits to improving our supplement regimen, we can get overwhelmed, whether it's just in our thoughts or in our budget or something like that. So my goal is to educate you on that, and also just to kind of make it really simple for you. So the first thing that I want to cover with that is that it's really important to understand our need for supplements. And one thing to remember is that when you look at a bottle, I should have had one with me, but if you look at a nutritional bottle and it says the percentage, the RDA, the recommended daily allowance percentage of that supplement, it's really not giving you an ideal percentage. So for instance, you might see on a supplement label that it says it contains, 1000% of the B12 that you need. That doesn't mean that it contains too much. It basically is 1000% of what is needed to prevent disease, to keep from basically dying of a lack of that vitamin or whatever that nutrient is. So when it says like it's 100% of the RDA of vitamin C, it's saying basically that it contains the amount needed so that you don't die of scurvy. So it's not saying that that's an optimal amount. It's saying that's basically to keep you from dying of a deficiency of that nutrient. There is a lot of research out there, and there have been professionals like the U.S. Surgeon Coop in the past who are very aware and informative about the link between deaths and nutritional deficiencies. So you can look at some of the top most common things that people die from, and they're related to diet and lack of nutrients. We'll talk about some of those tonight. And some people are like, well, I eat really healthy, why do I need to take supplements? The problem is that our food does not have the same nutrients that it did many years ago. So 80 years ago, you can see the difference in the minerals in fruits and vegetables and how much they've been depleted due to different farming techniques and lack of putting things back into the soil. One thing I want to note on that, though, is when you see it done differently, it's extremely valuable. So for instance, if you've hung around our group for a while, you know that Young Living does things differently. And so the farms that Young Living has, where our oils come from, they do things the way that things used to be done back in the day to put nutrients back into the soil and stuff. But when companies are doing large scale food production, they're not doing those things. They just are, just sometimes dumping enough of the chemical compounds on those fields in order for the food to be produced, but it doesn't mean that it has that nutritional content of it. So then we also need to factor in by the time the food gets to the grocery store, it's lost a lot of its nutrients as well. So for instance, vitamin C is a vitamin that degrades really easily. And so for say oranges, by the time they get to from Florida to Minnesota and they sit on the shelf or in the refrigerated section for a week, they've already lost most of their vitamin C. So it's just something to understand, not to say that we shouldn't eat healthy, because of course the benefit of eating good foods is while their mineral content and vitamin content may not be what it used to be and enough for us to depend on, they're at least not anti-nutrient foods or negative nutrient foods. They're like junk foods, processed foods will take nutrients out of our bodies. So not to say that they don't still have a lot of benefits, of course. I want to look at a couple of the symptoms of some of the most common issues that people deal with, just to give you an example of why we need to supplement, because we can be eating very healthy and still have some serious nutritional deficiencies. And that's obviously in part a lot due to just lifestyle factors that we all are up against, but also our childhood. And some of us may not have been brought up to eat healthy. And so, and some of us were maybe born deficient in some nutrients, which is really common. When I see tests of pregnant women testing their vitamin D levels, most of them are, like, when I say most, I mean like 95% of them are deficient in vitamin D. So most babies being born nowadays are deficient in vitamin D. And I was actually just talking with a friend in South Africa today, and she was surprised to find out that she tested extremely low too, which is really surprising in a country like South Africa, where they're in the middle of their spring going into summer season. So something to think about that. So if you can look at these symptoms, for instance, of magnesium deficiency and vitamin D deficiency, you can see that these are issues that a lot of people have and don't realize that sometimes by refueling their body with whatever it is that they're extremely low and deficient in, they could have way better health. The problem is that sometimes we buy cheap vitamin supplements from the stores or from Amazon, and we say it's not working, so it must not be a nutritional deficiency. For instance, a lot of people, when you tell them something like these are the symptoms of magnesium deficiency, they might get a cheap magnesium, like a magnesium citrate or magnesium oxide form of magnesium. And they might find that it loosens up their bowels, but it doesn't help with their headaches or their stress or muscle twitching or muscle cramps or things like that. So they think, well, it must not be a magnesium deficiency, it must be something else. And the problem is that it really comes down to quality for a lot of these things. So a couple of tips when you're thinking about quality: what you put into your supplements, your body will get out usually. So for instance, if you pay $10 for a bottle of really cheap magnesium, you might get 10% of that, and the other 90% is wasted. But if you were to spend $9 more instead on a better quality one that your body is absorbing all the way, then you're not wasting any money. So keep that in mind. Another thing I want to show you, and I didn't put this in the slide because this is something that I kind of found out later on after I had created this, whoops, let me just pull this up. So there's been some consumer reports and things like that have dug into supplements purchased on Amazon. And what they found was that 43% of items found in an investigation on Amazon were counterfeit. They were completely fake. So that's almost half of the things on Amazon were completely fake. They were every single one of the ones found to be fake were verified third-party sellers with high ratings. 25% of the items on Amazon, eBay, and Walmart.com were from Chinese counterfeiters. So just something to keep in mind. Now, there are some good companies that do sell their products themselves on Amazon. So if you're looking at who the seller is, it might be okay. But the good ones usually don't allow their things to be sold on Amazon. So when you're looking at supplements, you want to understand what some of the synthetics are to avoid, like DL, alpha tocopherol. D alpha tocopherol is the real version of, if I remember right, that's vitamin E. But DL, the little L in there, shows that it's synthetic. Folic acid is a synthetic folate. And so that's another one to be careful for. That one actually has some research behind it that it can do more harm than good. It's also found in a lot of enriched flour, bread products, cereals, stuff like that. So it's good to watch out for those there also. And then we really, really want to make sure we avoid anything with artificial sweeteners like aspartame, sucralose. There's a potassium K one. Also, those are usually in supplements that are like, say, sugar-free or something like that. So look carefully for those. If it has like stevia, xylitol, those are good though. And then food dyes, there's a lot of, like chewables and things that they try to make really pretty colored and things like that. But if the food dyes are in there, those are linked to their own set of health issues also. And then D2 is the form of vitamin D that's usually prescribed. That's a synthetic form. So if it's a prescription vitamin D, it's usually D2. There's a lot of research behind that on how that would actually should not be depended on for supplementing vitamin D. And then we're also going to consider, when we're spending money on supplements, bioavailability. So bioavailability is just making sure that you're actually absorbing what you're paying for and taking, so that you're really just not basically pooping out your money by supplements that your body's not even absorbing. They actually did some really interesting experiments with some of the vitamins out there that you would get like at Walmart and whatever, like for B vitamins, for instance, and they put them in water and they did not dissolve, they did not break down. And there are sanitation workers and things like that who say, like in those workers for porta potties and things like that, and they say that there is literally whole vitamins found very widely in leftover sewage and stuff like that. So they're just, people are spending money on them and they're just going right through them. So here's an example. They did some research on liquid minerals. So liquid minerals are obviously an ideal form of minerals. They did research on people taking them, and they found that they were having loose bowels from them, which generally means that they're not absorbing it and the body is excreting what they're not absorbing. They did that experiment on liquid minerals without essential oils, and then they added essential oils into the liquid minerals. Nobody got loose bowels when it was that in that form with the addition of the essential oils. And so what that meant was that the body was able to absorb it all completely when you combine it with the plant oils. They did this experiment also with multigreens, Young Living's multigreen supplement. Before they put oils in it, what they found was that there was a 42% absorption of the nutrients in 24 hours. So less than half of it was absorbed in one day. When they added in the essential oils, there was a 64% absorption in 30 minutes. So the body was absorbing it like that. And then within an hour, it was an 86% absorption. And I tried this out myself. I actually took some liquid minerals from another company and then mineral essence. And I could tell the difference. The liquid minerals did nothing for me. And I feel the difference immediately when I take mineral essence. So just again, your money is also, we also want to factor in whether your body's absorbing it or not. And you'll see some in mainstream circles and natural health circles and stuff that everybody takes, or a lot of people take, and that doesn't always mean that it's good. Like I said, some of the Amazon ones that were most common were highly rated and had lots of reviews and stuff like that. For instance, Natural Calm is one of those, very, very popular. My family used it for a while until we knew also that it tested really high in, I think it was aluminum. Maybe it was lead, I don't remember. And so that was years ago. The information came out. People are still using it just because, the information doesn't spread too much about it. I don't know. But it's just something to know when you're looking at, what's going on and stuff, I guess. Another thing to keep in mind, especially when you're buying probiotics, they did some consumer reporting on this also. And in 2003, an independent lab found that over 1/3 of commercial probiotic products tested contained less than 1% of the expected number or the listed number on the bottle of viable organisms. And so we've talked about that before, but it's just a reminder that just because it says that it contains something on the label, especially when it comes to probiotics, doesn't mean that it's actually in there. And like I said about magnesium supplements, those forms are usually absorbed by about 10%. So you're getting 10% of what you're paying for basically when it comes to those. And we talked about the counterfeit items from Amazon and things like that. I guess I did have that in there. So that's kind of some of the tips for spending wisely also, is just making sure you're getting what you're paying for. And then we want to make sure that you're getting supplements that have the best form of nutrients. And so we talked about avoiding ones with folic acid and synthetic vitamin E and things like that, synthetic vitamin D. You want to make sure that you're getting a form that's not foreign to your body. And when we talked about supplements that have the power boosted of them by adding things like the essential oils to increase the bioavailability, it's really fascinating because they found that some herbal supplements with dried herbs, or even just taking dried herbs or herbal teas that are from dried herbs or things like that, the body's not really absorbing them well, because the dried part of the plant, once it's dried, is kind of dead. It still has some benefits, but it's basically dead now. And so what they found was when you add the living part of the plant, the essential oil, into it, it really helps boost the benefits of the dried herbal product. So that's a really cool benefit of Young Living supplements when you have the addition of the essential oils and things like that. Another thing I would just encourage you to do is consider if you're buying your supplements from companies who lab test their batches, because like I said, they really don't necessarily contain what's listed on the bottle. So I love knowing that Young Living is testing every single batch. They're testing all of their essential oils, and they're not just testing them for bioavailability and viable organisms and their probiotics and things like that, but they're also testing them for heavy metals, which is important too. So now that we went into how to be a smart shopper and stuff with your supplements, what are the most important ones to start with? When I'm looking at somebody, and I've helped thousands of people, and I go, well, you know what? Everybody basically needs the first 4 to 5 to start out with, when I'm looking at the symptoms and deficiencies and things like that. And so what those tend to be are probiotics first and foremost. And this can be Life9, Mighty Pro, or something else that is very viable and tested. It can be fermented foods and drinks like that. It can be a combination. For me personally, I do Life9 and fermented foods, because you really can't get too many, especially nowadays. Stress is something that really affects gut health and things like that. So I want to make sure that I'm getting a lot of those. And then we talked about minerals. And so basically there was a Nobel Prize winner, Linus Pauling. He said that basically every illness and sickness can be traced back to a mineral deficiency. So it's just really that important. But again, most people are taking mineral supplements that their body's not absorbing. So this is where I find that really, honestly, every single person benefits so much from a supplement like Mineral Essence. Vitamin C, especially nowadays, we want to stay on top of that. And like I said, Vitamin C is a nutrient that degrades really easily. It's destroyed by heat. It's destroyed by age. So it's important to get supplements that are fresh and foods that are fresh as fresh as possible and things like that. For me personally, I take about 4,000 to 6,000 a day at least of vitamin C, 4,000 to 6,000 milligrams, and my kids take about half of that a day. And so we find that that's much better than some of the little amounts. But also when my kids take Super C chewables, we've actually found less of the amount to do more because those are really, really bioavailable. We've actually even high dose with those. So where we would normally have them taking thousands and thousands throughout the day in the case of some health challenge or something going on. We've had them just pop the vitamin C chewables like candy. They love it, and we've seen it work really well. And I know some other moms have mentioned to me that they've seen them do that really well with those too. So, and then we talk a lot about digestive enzymes. I know you guys will keep hearing me talk about those all of the time. We need help breaking down our food. It's just a fact. Unfortunately, we're just there as a society, and our bodies are not breaking down food properly. So undigested food proteins are causing a lot of issues in the body. And so you can look up some information in our group about that, but those are something that are generally consumed with each meal to help assist the body in breaking food down so that it's not creating inflammation or allergic responses or anything like that in the body. It also is really a great way to help lighten the load on the liver, since our livers tend to be overwhelmed nowadays. And when our liver is working properly, it can produce the antioxidant glutathione, which is really great for lots of different body functions and recovery and things like that. So digestive enzymes are really great. Hippocrates said all disease begins in the gut. And so when we're focusing on things like probiotics and digestive enzymes, we're strengthening our immune system. We're helping basically all functions of our body. And if you've not heard of the gut-brain connection, there's a lot there about how our mental health is also affected and impacted by our gut too. So just starting there with those things is really going to do a lot more than most people will think. Let me see how we're doing on time. Okay. And then after that, start looking at some more targeted support. These are some of the most important things that I find people really benefit from. Thyroid support, we have Thyromin for that, which has been great for a lot of people who have signs their body's telling them that their thyroid might be running slow, low body temperature, feeling cold a lot, low energy, slow metabolism, slow digestion, and things like that. B vitamins are super important. One of the most key ways to really know that your body's really, really needing some B vitamins is if you wake up feeling not rested, if you wake up still feeling tired, even though, you had 8 hours or whatever. So most people really do need B vitamins. B vitamins are depleted really quickly when under stress, or also from certain foods, sugars and things like that deplete B vitamins also. And this is where we talked about making sure that you're getting one with a natural folate like Super B with the organic folate that's in it and things like that. B vitamins are water soluble, so you can't take too many of them. Your body will pee out any extra. So they're not something that, like, if you feel better taking 4 or 6 of Super B a day, that's not going to do any harm. And you might notice that it actually does a lot of good. Vitamin D, I would move this up to the first slide right now this season. I cannot stress enough the power of making sure that your vitamin D levels are good. And it might be for things that you don't even think about that are going on with your body and how the vitamin D will benefit that. But I will tell you, and I know I've said this before, that I review tons and tons of lab tests, and I see that vitamin D is low in everybody who is not actively supplementing. And we've seen all the research coming out on that, on how it's really, really important right now. So right now, most people who are deficient, they really should be taking at least 5,000 IUs a day. So like for instance, and for kids, they should be at least, I mean, it depends on the age, but like my 7-year-old, we had tested him in the spring in Minnesota last year, or in the winter, and his was low and he was having some health issues because of that. And as soon as we got it up, we moved to Oklahoma in the summer. We had him outside in his shirt off all of the time. And within weeks, he was doing, well, not even weeks, like maybe even 2 weeks, he was doing 100 times better. And then as soon as the son kind of started becoming more weak and stuff like that, we knew that we had to stay on top of it. So for him, he takes 2 super vitamin Ds a day, which I think equals out to be 4,000 IUs a day. And he's 7 and he's really, really thin. So probably I would say 40 pounds. So anyway, just to say that sometimes the amount that we want to be taking is, especially now, definitely more than what most people would think to take, and it will really do your health a lot of good. We talked a little bit about liver support with enzymes. There are some other great ways to work on that, and that's something that really should be targeted with any digestive concerns or hormonal concerns and things like that. Also, when the body has a hard time utilizing the sun's vitamin D, that goes back to the liver needing some more support too, usually. Essential fatty acids, this is brain food. So that would be things like MindWise, which is delicious and kids love it, and it's great food for them. Also, omega J's is another one, and cod liver oil is another one that we take. And then detoxification. So we're going to be talking about that next month. I haven't told anybody yet, but I'm telling you guys now. We're going to talk a little bit about doing some cleansing and stuff like that for the new year. I'm kind of just basing it on what I'm seeing most people are needing right now. Normally we do a parasite cleanse, but I'm seeing that a lot more people really, really just need a good bowel cleanse. So we're going to be talking some more about that in our group coming up. So what about multivitamins? This is really a great question that I get a lot. And the way that I answer that is dependent on who the person is, because sometimes people do better giving their body really targeted support than just a multivitamin. And some people just want a multivitamin because they want it to be easy. And some people will do both, which is great. The problem is we've got to make sure that the multivitamin is good. And now here's where it gets a little tricky, because I work with supplement manufacturers to create my own supplements as well, that are ones that kind of fill in the gaps for what Young Living doesn't have. And when I look at multivitamins, I have turned down 99% of the ones that I found because I don't like what's in them. Usually multivitamins contain cheap forms, the cheapest form of nutrients, and sometimes the toxic form of nutrients. And even if like maybe a lot of the nutrients didn't look good, it might have synthetic folic acid, or it might have a lot of iron. And a lot of iron isn't good, unfortunately, in that form, because iron basically feeds gut bugs in some ways, the bad gut bugs that cause anemia. So it's kind of a catch-22 there. So all that to say, sometimes it's really hard with multivitamins, but if you find a good one and maybe you have somebody in your family that are like, I'm not taking mineral essence, I'm not taking Super B, I'm not taking MindWise, I'm not doing all of that, can you just give me one thing? This is where I encourage you to look at Master Formula. Master Formula, it's guys especially love it because it's so easy. It's in a packet. Women do too, but it's very good forms of nutrients, and it's more than that though. So it's called a multi-nutrient formula because it's not just vitamins and minerals. It also contains a lot of really great things for all over body support, for helping with the body's natural response to inflammation, like turmeric, and just a lot of really powerful things. So it's more like all of these different things that a lot of people take in supplements combined in one. And that's what Master Formula is. And it comes in little sachets that are daily use. So you literally just grab a little sachet and you take the supplements that are in there, and that's it for the day. So just decide if that's something for you or somebody in your family, whether you'd like to piece it in like I talked about, or just simplify it in that way. I would still obviously encourage the other things if possible, but I want to also meet people where they're at and make sure that they're at least getting something. So that's it for that. I'm gonna, let's see here, turn this off so I can take some questions, and then I'm also going to, let's see here, we're at 7:30. So I'm gonna stop the recording real quick, and then we'll have some time for questions.